we know that the Bible works in patterns, okay? And it says this, and this is going to identify something. In Ephesians 2, 1 and 2, it says, and he made you alive who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now working in the sons of disobedience. That spirit of this age, which I'll just jump to, because the teaching's not on that, I already did it in Sioux Falls, is Jezebel. Okay, because you trace her all the way from Semiramis. She was married to the very first world ruler who ruled Babylon. Okay, and she was known as the Queen of Heaven. And she kind of incarnates throughout the Word, and then she shows up in Zechariah, where Zechariah saw a woman get into an ephod, and two winged ladies with stork wings takes her to the land of Shinar. And he goes, who is this? And they say, this is wickedness. Same lady. In other words, she's going to be taken to Shinar. And what's in Shinar? Anyone know? Babylon. Yeah, Babylon. That's the plain, the district, whatever is Shinar. Babylon's just the little city there, okay? And so she's going to be taken there, where she's going to be placed on her own pedestal. And then she infiltrates the church. How does she infiltrate it? Well, if you go to Matthew 13:33, the fourth parable is this woman putting leaven, hiding leaven into the mystery form of the kingdom, which is the church. Okay? Then you got to go to the fourth church in Revelation 2 and 3, Thyatira, the final form of the Roman Catholic Church. And who do you see there? There's a prophetess there. What's her name? Jezebel. She is causing God's servants to stumble because she's making them meat sacrifice to idols because of her immorality. So God's going to judge her. Then you get to Revelation 17 and 18, and guess what? That woman shows up in her final form, the whore of Babylon. All right, so you kind of, and I didn't develop this real, but you kind of get that. So what is the spirit of this age? Remember, whatever is happening gets magnified in the end times. Well, it is the spirit of Jezebel that we're seeing, the rebellion, the immorality, the lack of reason, and truth that's there, and the worship of other gods, which may not be so obvious. People are chasing the buck, they're chasing their own lusts, everything but God. So that's the great apostasia. Okay, now, so we have Jezebel rise up in these last times, the spirit of Jezebel, Ephesians 2:2. And my question is, if Jezebel rises up, what is God's response? And that's what we're going to get into. When I went to Sioux Falls, I was kind of down. I was hoping, okay, God, I'm going to get there and you're going to, do something. And he really did. I come back to Santa Fe, and it's like, right down the drain. So, which you guys aren't going to believe this, but this is kind of a spiritually dark place.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And he's got to have people in the darkest places. So it's not a matter of, I'd like to live here or there, or this is so neat. It's where God has you. So I got back to Sioux Falls. I was really kind of struggling and down. And so last night, this is when I started getting all these messages that God put together for me. Now, these are coincidences, okay? Let's see what kind of coincidences happen. So I text Tom. I say, will you pray for me? I kind of feel down. And he goes, well, do what Elijah did. After the showdown with the prophets of Baal, rest, eat, rest. I was like, and I was thinking, yeah, that's, I wanted something a little more spiritual, but you know what? That's true. But actually, it turned out to be real spiritual, and we're going to get into that. Then, you guys remember Brad Fisher?
Yes.
Well, I contact him and talk to him every once in a while. And so we were just talking, how was your day? Okay, good. And then he goes, I got to get back to, David fleeing from Absalom. It's like, okay. So I was really tired. I get really tired on Monday night. And then I'm laying down, all of a sudden, my iPad tweets. Like, I better take a look at it. And just out of the blue, here's what he texts me. 1 Kings 19, 11 through 13. And then God said, go and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and there's a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and break the rocks before the Lord. And the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, an earthquake. The Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a still small voice. So it was when Elijah heard it. This is when Elijah. It's like he wrapped his face in his mantle, went out at the entrance of the cave, and suddenly a voice said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? I'm sitting there knowing that the spirit of the ages is Jezebel. And so God gave me the answer right then. What does God do when Jezebel rises up? He raises up Elijah. He raises up Elijah. When Jezebel's on the scene, Elijah, not just one, he's looking for men that will rise up, take the leadership, be bold. Just be bold as everything and stand before the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Ashtoreth. And actually, I was listening to this teaching last night, and I never heard it before, where they had this thing, they found this underground tunnel to the altar of Baal, and some of the priests would sneak under there and they would start fires. So they would call fire down from heaven or whatever, and then it would appear. And so that's why he's saying, no, we're going to do it out here, okay? And let's douse it with water and see which God answers. And so I'm thinking, okay, now get this. It even gets more freaky, okay? I mean, when God puts this all together, my hair starts standing on end, even as long as it is. And I'm like, I can't believe it. Okay, so obviously patterns in Bible. We had the Elijah come in 1st and 2nd Kings. Then we have another guy who comes, who's in the spirit and power of Elijah. Who's that? John the Baptist.
Thank you. One of the other.
John the Baptist comes. Now, was he a bold man? Was he a guy that just told it like it was? Yes, he came in the spirit and the power of Elijah. So he actually got his head chopped off because he said, hey, it's not lawful for you to have your sister or your brother's wife. He didn't mind calling it like it was. Now, in today's nice and polite social interaction Christianity, we can't do that, can we? No. How you doing and all that? Yeah, we need to start calling sins. That's what I'm saying. We need Elijah's, and there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. I got that. But we need Elijah's stand up. If you kind of know a little bit of the Hebrew, it's Eli Yah. It's actually Eliyahu, but Yahu's kind of what is that? What does his name mean? So it's saying Jehovah is God. It's identifying the one true God. And that's what we got to do in this age. The one true God is identify it and not shrink back from them. So Elijah comes first, very bold, takes on the false gods. Then John the Baptist comes and these are rugged men, horse, I mean, very like camel skin and stuff. In fact, you guys know the legend of what happened to Elijah's mantle? According to legend or rabbinic tradition, what happened was that cloak was put inside of the temple in one of the, I think it was in the holy place, not the Holy of Holies, but in the holy place. And it was in one of the little drawers there. And then when Zechariah, John the Baptist's father, went in there, he grabbed it. And guess who gave it to? His son. So John the Baptist is wearing the cloak or the garment of Elijah. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere today in Israel. And when we know Elijah's coming again, right? We know the old Passover stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with that cloak. Would it surprise you guys? No, it's like I expect it at this time. Here's something else that ties it. I'm going to kind of show you that there's Elijah in First and Second Kings. There is Elijah during the time of Jesus. There's Elijah in the tribulation period. But there's also another Elijah, and I'll prove it to you. Okay? It says this Elijah, the first one, typology. When Elijah was done with his ministry, some people say he didn't fully fulfill it. Maybe that's why we're here. How did he exit this world?
In a chariot. Burning chariot.
Burning chariot. We call that a
Chariot of fire.
Yeah, chariot of fire. And if we
Rapture.
Yes,
That's the word
he Elijah left here in a rapture, which is the way that the Elijahs today that stand up are going to leave this world in a rapture. So that's what I'm saying. Just before the rapture and the tribulation comes, in this period where things are gone off the rails, and we live in the spirit, in the age of the spirit of Jezebel, God is going to rapture the Elijahs out of here, which to me is incredible. Okay. Now, also, there's another connection. This is just on the side. Moses and Elijah, the two witnesses, did you know that both met God at Mount Horeb, aka Mount Sinai?
I didn't know that.
Where you hear that still small voice, that was Mount Horeb, which is the ancient name for Mount Sinai. They were both at the same mountain, both saw the manifestation of God, and both heard from God. Enoch and Elijah are both types that repeat throughout the Old Testament that give us a model what's going to happen in the future, which is the church being raptured. Like Enoch, what happened to him? He walked with God, then he was not, for God took him. I think that's Genesis 5. Then after that, Genesis 6, what happens? The flood, the tribulation. So it's a picture of the church being raptured before the tribulation period. Get it? Now, you want to be an Elijah. Think about it. Is there any price to be paid? Just, I'd like to be in the spotlight, God, make me an Elijah. It's very easy, right? Right? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's, if you're going to stand up and be God's leader, you got to be bold and you got to be willing to give up everything in a second. And you might have to give up everything before you even start. When we get to heaven, we're going to sit there and say, why didn't I give up everything for him? That's going to be our question. Why did I not give up everything for him? I'm serious about that. Why did I hold back? You have the ox head, first of all, which means the leader or the head, the strong leader. Okay? Then you have the shepherd's staff, which means teaching or leading or shepherding. Okay? Then you have the yod, which is a hand or an arm. It speaks of a work or a deed. Okay? Then you have a man. He's kind of going like this. It means to behold or to reveal or to show something. And you know what that says when you put it all together? It's the strong leader, the ox head, okay, teaching the ways of Yeshua. It's a teaching. And it's got a shepherd's staff. He's teaching about the great shepherd. That's your message. It's all about Jesus, period. And we need that today, okay? And he has a work or a deed or a ministry that he has to accomplish, that has to be revealed. That's Elijah. He's here, he's leading, he's teaching about Yeshua, about the great shepherd, and he has a ministry that he has to accomplish. And he has to be bold in order to do that. When the children of Israel got to the promised land, was that heaven?
Kind of.
No.
No.
What was it?
Typology.
Yes. But did the battles cease?
No.
No. When you go in there and you're going to take the land, the battles, you might say, actually began, right? So it's not like I'm in the promised land, now I can just cruise. Once you get into the promised land, that's when the heaviest battles occur. That's when the heaviest battles occur. So you got to think of it that way. Look, what you need to do and what I need to do is we need to go to that place, Mount Horeb. Where God is. And that's where the word of God was given to Moses. We need to flee to that place in order to get renewed strength and hear from God, especially if you're going to have the Elijah ministry, because it's vicious. You know, Jezebel and all her tactics and that she does and stuff. And she'll try to slice you up. And she will if she can. Okay? And the funny thing was this morning, I got up, I thought, okay, God, that's a neat message. I know all these coincidences in my life. So I always turn on my computer next to the halfway house on the other side of the fence, and I have teaching going. And so I thought, okay, here's a bunch of teaching on Luke. I'll go ahead and do that. Right then, the first thing now the guy's teaching, and he was in the book of Luke, had nothing to do with 1st and 2nd Kings. He said, your battle's not against people, but it's your God against their God. Exactly what happened when Elijah. That's where the real contest is, not a person. And you know the old thing where when you had two nations battling, they always felt like whoever had the stronger God, that would be the nation that won. And that's a battle of word. And you have to have faith. You have to be, but not presumption. Okay, I wouldn't, try to call fire down, to light something unless God told me to. But you got to have faith, and you got to build it up, and you got to stand boldly for the truth. Okay, so the question is this: if you're willing to be an Elijah, you have to put down the toys. You have to be willing to pay the price. Okay, and you have to be willing to fulfill the Elijah ministry. All right, not easy, not easy, but I'm sure that this message was from God. Like I said, I got the Jezebel spirit for the first half, and that took me, at least 6 weeks to really concentrate. And then I got the Elijah message in 24 hours. Yeah, so let's be bold. Let's just go out there and realize, because I think if you realize the spirit that permeates this age, and then you see people who fit perfectly into the Jezebel mode, then what do? Go back to 1st and 2nd Kings, go to John the Baptist, and see what they did. They just stood boldly and proclaimed the word of God. And they were full of faith, and they were fearless. And that's one of Satan's tactics, is to have wimpy little men that don't know how to lead, that don't know how to take a stand. And again, that's the nice, quiet, quaint, polite, social Christian interaction that we have. And again, I'm not saying go there and be mean or anything. I'm just saying that if that's all the Christianity consists of, that's why we're in the state that we're in right now. Okay? We need some people to stand up and stuff, and say some stuff and take a stand for what is right. Here's a dichotomy that they make: mean and nice. And those can be very subjective terms. In other words, if you don't do things what I say and the way I say it, guess what you're labeled as? Mean. And that can't be a Christian. Christians can't be mean. Right. Nice is you just shut your mouth and you follow the recipe of the end of the age, and you quietly go to hell with everyone else. Don't upset the cart, is what it is. And I'm here to upset the cart as much as I can. I'm serious. I really am. It's a plan of, we're in the age of Jezebel, and now he's calling us to be Elijahs. Elijah doesn't hide. Okay? Right. He goes through bouts of depression. Right. And he does sometimes have doubts. Are you the one, the coming one, or are we to wait for another, right? John the Baptist? Yeah. Or after Elijah's greatest victory, then a woman scares him. Of course, it's Jezebel herself. And then he flees, he gets depressed. So they're human. Yeah. And they have frailties. They need God. They need God. But they depend upon him, and they get the power. And they do things they are not capable of their own. Who can call down fire from heaven? Well, the two witnesses, for one thing. Sure. And the false prophet too. Sure. False miracles. A lot of deception going on. A lot of deception. So I hope I made it I hope that empowers you a little bit, understanding the age and understanding your place in it. Where you could say, I'm just not here to exist until the rapture. I am here because God chose me for this time period. He's going to take people that have no strength in and of themselves and make them shine like the stars of heaven. Daniel 12. So that many can get saved and see that witness, right?
So that he gets the glory.
He gets the glory, exactly.